Hi everyone, my name is Katherine Horsham and I work at the King's Entrepreneurship Institute, and one of our contributions this year to London Venture Call 2021 is a virtual stop at Mercato Metropolitano, and I'm pleased to be joined by Andrea Rasca, the Chief Executive Dreamer of Mercato. So hi.
Hi, Katherine.
Mercato are a movement championing a sustainable, equitable approach to food and eating well, primarily through two marketplaces and communities in London. So the site in Elephant and Castle, we were lucky to visit last year in person, but also there's another site in Mayfair. So, Andrea, I'm wondering if you can help us imagine if we were all collectively able to go and visit one of your marketplaces together right now. What would it be like? How would you describe it? What would we see, hear, smell, taste? And how would we know that we were in a Mercato market and not just any old market?
Okay, so actually, it's incredibly easy to recognize Mercato because there's nothing scientific about it. It's just who we are. So Mercato is, let's say, final creation of a 30 years development in my food career, because I started 30 years ago, to talk about my passion, which has always been food. And when you enter in a Mercato, the first thing you will immediately understand is the passion, is the importance of not only food, but even more eating together. Um, Even if this seems such an easy thing to understand, we very often forget that the real value of a meal is to share it. So I can't remember a wonderful meal eaten alone. The best meals in my life have always been with someone else, shared with people you like, your friends, or sometimes people you are negotiating with, but nevertheless with people. So it's very important to understand the role of food, not as only taste and flavors per se, but the social importance of food. So when you enter a mercato, you will immediately be struck, depending on the location, because probably, as you know, Mercato is the opposite of a chain. So we will keep on changing the name also, because Mercato Mayfair is one thing, Mercato Metropolitano was the first one, the next one will be Mercato Ilford. We are not so keen about the naming of it and the brand. We are much more interested in the movement per se and the atmosphere. So wherever you go, you immediately feel that you are in a place where the food is exquisite, very high level, but at a very affordable price. Why is that? Because by creating very big markets, I can make sure that I can share the cost of a big location with my 25 up to 60 different vendors, depending on the location. And so I will allow all of these amazing entrepreneurs and artisans to to be able to operate in even quite expensive areas without having to go through the hustle of the rent, business rates, and waste, and which makes life impossible. Let's speak frankly. To have your own restaurant, the main street of London or wherever, um, you have a very high possibilities of failure after 1 year, because sometimes you can't factor in all the hidden costs of your own activity, obviously. So when you enter in a mercato, you will immediately feel this community intent, and you will see, this is one of the things that strikes me the most, you will see no clear identity of class, gender, or whatever. We target people who love to eat and eat together with other people, which means everyone, whether whatever the religion is, the habit, the culture, the habits, just the simple taste of food, you will find something in each of our market, because this is what we want. It's not an Italian concept. This is another very important distinction with other big chains of markets. We do not have an identity based on our nationality, which personally I consider I'm very proud of, obviously, but I'm prouder of being European, and I'm proud of being a citizen of the world. I can't feel the urge of being Italian. I am Italian. Of course I'm Italian. My DNA is Italian. But wherever we open, the first thing we want to achieve is a strong communication with the residents, with the local institutions, with the universities, and with the people who create the communities around us. Sometimes people say that we create the community. This is absolutely nonsense. We are not that strong. What we become catalyzer for communities. We give tools to the community to express themselves, and we give also the space to them. So you see, we immediately try to understand the anthropological aspect of the areas in which we try to establish ourselves, and then we start engaging with the community, and then we create the concept. The concept is every time a new one, depending on the building, the area, the people around us, and very often by the feeling I have in my guts when I walk around. And so sometimes when people tell me Mercato is a model, it's a model of an anti-model. We are, it's complex in that sense, and it's very easy. Sometimes I used to, because I love water, I used to say that we are like water. If we find ourselves in a bottle, we take the shape of the bottle. If you pour us in a glass, we take the shape of the glass. So if we enter in, when we enter in Elephant and Castle, which was a quite, let's say, complex place because it was abandoned with no electricity, no gas, no water, junkies all around. It was really, really a derelict place. Well, I loved it because when I see beautiful, all factories like this in the center of the city abandoned, I say, thanks God, there's space for us to do something and to give it back instead of building something new. But then they asked us to open in an amazing grade 1 listed building in Mayfair, which used to be a church till 76. And you can imagine an Italian entering in a church. For us, church and food were the same level since I was a kid. There is a church every 50 meters probably in every village in Italy. So you imagine me entering in such a beautiful building, even if it's not a church anymore and stopped being a church many years ago. Nevertheless, I mean, all the musicality of the space is about religion. So when I entered and I realized that that place had been used for silly parades and disco clubs and alcohol parties, I said, no, I have to do something and to give it back to the community. So we created a space which was based on food as usual, but as you know, 50% was dedicated to the community activities. So we created courses for free of guitar or singing classes for kids in particular, and we left 300 square meters of community space only for the people of Mayfair. Because again, the most important part of Mercato is that it becomes the hub of the community, where you go to watch a movie, listen to music, visit an art exhibition while eating amazingly good, affordable, compatible with local cultures, nutritious, and with zero additives, chemicals, and no ultra-processed food whatsoever. So this is Mercato. It's a big party at the end of the day. It's a big party.
I definitely, from being lucky enough to go there, it was one of the last things I did before COVID happened, and what a last thing to do, because I agree that you do just feel instantly like you're part of something, and I'm glad you used the sort of anti-market phrase, because that's it. While you were talking, I was like, it's sort of defined by what it's not, in a way, compared to so many like traditional concepts of like food markets and yeah, those sorts of communities. So
But it's true, because now there are so many food halls around, Catherine, and these food halls, what I perceive them as a recycled last version of the failed shopping mall, just offering instead food. They think that just by putting terrible chain restaurants under one roof, it becomes a food hall. No, it's still a shitty restaurant under a different roof. So if you keep on selling, sorry, if you want to cut a
oh
shit
no,
restaurant,
go
you
for
can.
it.
But if you still sell these sugary drinks and you put them on the counter of your beautiful store, as if your main activity was to sell that instead of your burger, maybe, or your pasta, you have to put this red can of sugary, dangerous drinks. There's something wrong in it. It means that it's just another way to try to trick citizens into making the biggest mistakes we've been making the last 80 years, comparing food to a t-shirt. Food, when you eat it, it becomes part of who you are. You don't throw it away. It becomes part of your body because you digest it, you integrate it in your body. So how is it possible that we allow chains of rotten, faked, not even to be called food, but composed, composed kind of meatballs of fat of ill animals treated badly, to be part of your life? How, when did we become so stupid and we lost track of who we are? Food is first and foremost our energy fuel. It has to be something that makes me happy. Don't forget, I'm Italian, so I will never be a typical, these guys, everything is organic. I want to be this leftist, cool niche of people. I'm not. I'm Italian. I love good food every single day. It has to be tasty. So don't give me food that could go well for birds or dogs. I mean, I'm human. I want to eat good food, but I want to eat tasty food, which has to be nutritious, accessible, and compatible with local cultures. These three last definition compose and make the bigger definition of right to food, which is a human right, and we forgot about it. And we let as a community, and the government in particular are the real delinquents in this. They let these chains open near schools because with 1, 2, 3 pounds you can fake a lunch and eat something which they call food and instead should be banned, should not be even be called food. You can call it a toy and a substitute once in a while for real food. They should not be calling it food. So you see, it's a little bit, Mercato is a little bit going back to our roots, but with an innovative mind, because we try to connect food to everything, to lifestyle, which means food is connected to our choices of what we want for ourselves. And through those choices, we also make a change in the farmer's capacity to grow for us. Because if I want to eat a good apple, I will ask the farmer to give me an apple without chemicals. And to do so, he will need to be sustainable. You see how food will immediately, directly impact all the sourcing on one side, the supply chain. On the other side, if you eat a good apple and you possibly eat 5 fruits every day, you will have less problem of health. So you impact also the other side of the medal, which is health. So food is at the center of social impact, health, environment, and social injustice. Food is at the center of everything.
It's very much like listening to you. It's like this systemic way of thinking and redefining business
Yeah.
as like being part of that and a positive sort of force for good, which I mean I wish more more people were this minded. It would be good
But
for.
there's no alternative, Katherine. The people are
Yeah.
not thinking like this. They're not really caring about the planet, people. They just care about becoming richer from themselves. And these people should be banned from the business environment, should not even be invited to talk. They are a disgrace.
So let's just go back a step to the beginning, because I read that this Mercato journey started from a sort of pilot project you did in 2015 at the World Expo in Milan. I'm just sort of wondering how you got into that opportunity, and then sort of how you transitioned from that pilot to obviously the first site in London.
Yes, let's say that to be sincere, everything started, I still remember it, when I visited my first market when I was 6. And there I was struck by the noise, the smell, the colors, the atmosphere. And again, being Italian obviously is an advantage, but I was struck by all of it and I loved it. And then I kind of forgot about it because I studied economics, I studied everything. And then I was luckily chosen and I won a scholarship from the European Union. And I was sent to Japan for almost 2 years to study. And there, in 95, I realized that it's always the case. That's why I always say to kids and young students and travel. And traveling doesn't mean just to take a plane. Traveling means to try to see the world from a different perspective and try to incorporate what you see and change the way you see the world. So when I was there, I realized that food was at the center of a soft power diplomacy, which in Italy we had it naturally, but we were not building on it. And I said, why don't I make my passion from now on also my life? And that's where I started thinking about a container of ideas. Because the Mercato is at the end another container. So I created tens of concepts and I was always improving them little by little. And then, as you said, in 2015, after many other tests and trials, and one of them is another Italian chain that opened. But I was when I started that, we just opened 2 of them, one in Milan, one in Tokyo, and then it became a chain. So I left immediately because it became just a supermarket of very expensive prices. With very expensive prices. So when I came back, I went back, to Milan, and I was there in 2015. I was invited to have a look at the Food Expo. I don't know if you remember, we had this marvelous expo in Milan, and I went to have a look because Slow Food was there, everybody was there, so I went. And it was a beautiful event. I'm not criticizing it. The only thing that I could not bear was the fact that the 3 main sponsors were McDonald's, Coca-Cola, and Autogrill. And I said, guys, honestly, I can't do this. I can't be here. We're talking about Food Expo, and we have the anti-food sponsoring the event. So we are again in the hands of money, who is enslaving us all. So I went back a little bit disillusioned. I went back to the center where I live near I don't know if you know Milan, along the Navigli is a very cool nightlife area and is also the fashion area. It's the coolest area in Milano, and it's really beautiful. And walking backwards, I honestly saw this abandoned building with it was a warehouse, a train station warehouse with 14,000 square meter of abandoned parking lot. And again, it was used by uh, basically bicycle uh, thieves to sell to you the bicycle which they stole from you the day before. So it was a wonderful market, and it was owned by the railway station and so company. So I went to physically knock at their door one day, and I said, "Why don't I give a try?" So I went and said, "Listen, you are Milan is organizing the food expo, and but it's outside of Milano, and why don't we do an off the expo, right in the center?" They liked the idea. And I said, "Don't worry about money. I'm going to find the money to do. I'm going to do everything myself. Just give me the space." So we went through, obviously, a pitch because after they got the interest, they realized they could make money, obviously. And they went through a pitch. I won the pitch. And in 3 months, we opened Mercato Metropolitano, right in the center, with exactly the same values. Obviously, now we have evolved. We become part of the United Nations Global Compact, etc. But the values were there from the start. So no zero budget in advertising, no sponsors, no chemicals, no Wi-Fi. Talk to people. Stop this silly social media fuss, which is good for something. But when you go out with your friend, boyfriend, or friends, just talk to each other. And we started. I still remember the first 5 days, no one was coming by because I did not advertise it at all. But I'm a strong believer that even when I was younger, when I was launching and throwing parties, people would talk to each other about my parties because they were fundamentally very healthy and fun parties. Food was always at the center even when I was much younger. So little by little, people started coming, and in particular, mother with young kids used to come, as usual. Women are at the center of the change, as we all know it. I'm not here being a feminist or whatever. It's just reality. When you want to change, you need to talk to women. Sometimes men are a little bit more conservative, let's say, in terms of food, of trying new things, etc., etc. So they started coming, and they start, as it always happens, they started messaging their friends, and the friends of the friends, and the friends of the friends. In 4 months, we had 2.5 million visitors. We were the biggest thing after the expo in Milan, obviously. We were on 954 newspaper, magazine, or TV shows around the world. And that moment, we had a contract obviously only of 6 months because it was for the expo, so we could not continue. So I left. Someone else tried to continue, but again, the misconception of being a food hall instead of what we do is very strong. So we left, and I said to myself, well, now I want to try in another country, in one of the most competitive cities in the world in terms of food markets. I want to try in my beloved London. And I came and I looked for a terrible place. So many real estate developers, they took me to Oxford Street, New Oxford Street, boring place. They were talking about people, number of people passing by, footfall, all these marketing tools and all these market indicators which are needed by people who do not have passion and a real concept. So I didn't like any of those locations. Then just by walking by an Elephant and Castle, I saw this abandoned factory, and I got in touch with the owner, which was Peabody at that time, and they wanted to build another skyscraper with their incredible imagination, obviously. And they said, you know what? We are doing nothing with that. If you use it for 1 year, we give it to you. You just pay the business rates and you deal with everything else. And again, what I did was not a business decision, Katherine. This is very important for your fellow students, etc. I took one of the most dangerous and probably stupid decisions to take a place for only 1 year of rent, invest everything I had, because in the wrong and the worst possible location in London, which was south of the river in Elephant and Castle, where 5 years ago there was actually zero footfall. And it was after 6 o'clock, it was also a little bit dangerous to walk by. And you could come for the disco, which is next to us, very famous. But after midnight is another kind of people, obviously, the kind of group of people. And all of my friends told me, Andrea, don't do it. It's the wrong location. And as it often happens, I love when they tell me not to do something, because it means that I really need to do it. And I opened it because I felt I could continue. There was no way that Peabody could have built a skyscraper in 1 year. There was no way.
Yeah.
And so I started talking to all the residents. I expressed my concerns and expressed my vision. Everybody loved it. So we got in 3 months. We opened. Again, no light, no electricity, no heating. It was fun. I loved it. We started with the first trading partners, and people started flooding in. And again, with the same concept, zero advertising. In 2019, last year, unfortunately, it's a forgotten year. 2020 is a lost year for everyone in the world. But in 2019, we picked almost 4 million visitors, 22 million total revenue in one location. With, well, you might have seen it, articles everywhere. The mayor which decides to give us another location in a very difficult area, which is Ilford. We are building as we speak. And for the first time in history, because of what we do with kids, so we feed 550 families during the summer school retreat. We gave out more than 10,000 meals during the COVID, etc., etc., etc. He gave us, through the GLA, an incredible grant of 1.4 million to open another crazy market in Ilford, which we are building now. So you see, when you really work within the community with people, then the opportunities just arises very fast. And that's the way we develop.
It's a really good example listening to you about the sort of building traction. You know, you talked about talking to the people in the community, and that then opening up doors with other stakeholders, then, you know, just starting with the minimum. You know, you didn't have the lights and everything, you see where that takes you, and then you've got the mayor saying have another site. It's a really sort of powerful example of you build it from the bottom up with people, yes. With creating people, value exactly. For people. You will open doors for yourself and get opportunities. I think it's a really sort of positive message. What skills do you think for you as an entrepreneur were like really important in getting to that point in your journey? I'm just sort of thinking about our audience of students who maybe want to be at that position later on in life. Like, what skills do you think are really important for them to develop?
Skills. I would start with curiosity. Without that, you're dead. You need to be curious. And the second skill or characteristic you need to have is, if you want to become an entrepreneur, because people sometimes idealize the idea of an entrepreneur who has private jets, lives a wonderful life. It's exactly the opposite. You will never gain back what you've given during your life in terms of energy, sleepless nights, worries. You will never get them back. So if you want to do it, it's because you have a mission. If you have that mission, nothing can stop you. And it's not important how much you will earn in terms of money, but what you get back in satisfaction for what you do. So in that sense, I keep on telling people when they come to me and they propose new project, they say, okay, I got this idea, I will build one, and then I want to franchise it. I said, don't do this, because if your dream is to do something that you will not follow, you want to give it away immediately, that's not a passion. It's just another exercise of a foolish economy, which is disappearing, and the COVID has exacerbated the process of it. So do something because you love it. Do something because it makes you feel better when you go to sleep, because you've done something you love, not because you want to make money. Making money is so stupid. It's such a waste of time. If you are not happy, who cares if you make a lot of money? So we need to change this. We still have this new journalist newspaper. They talk about Amazon, the richest man. Who cares? I am the richest man in the world because I have 4 million people who come to eat with me here and enjoy what we are giving them. I have a wonderful family. I got friends here. I do not own a car. I do not own an apartment. I rent everything. And I'm the richest person on earth because I do exactly what I love to do every day of my life. So this is the first thing: passion, love for what you do, and then to be caparbious, and you have to be relentless. Nothing can stop you, no matter how many nights you don't sleep. When maybe you get to sleep, and the day after you have to pay the salaries of 200 people, and you don't have them. Because that we had a COVID, for instance, and you have to pay electricity. You know, when I was younger, 24, 25, I had so many of these problems. But if you don't go through this, you don't learn. So the university is very important. I keep on telling people, study, and I studied a lot, but not because you need a degree, because you need to try to put yourself in front of a varied uh, um, array of difficulties and concepts and circumstances, and you need to overcome all of them. Then you'll become also what you want to become. But curiosity, tenacity, and a little bit of study would help a lot.
Amazing. And just thinking about, I mean, I'm a bit of a fan personally of what you do, but also just reading like your impact reports. I had a look at those before chatting with you, and there's just like so much that you are doing that, particularly around like sustainability, that another organization would be pretty chuffed with themselves if they were just doing like 5% of what you were doing. So sort of how do you keep going and keep pushing the envelope with all that stuff, and don't sort of just go, look, we're smashing it, we don't need to do any more. It feels like you're just keeping going. Like, how do you maintain that culture in your family of people working for you?
First of all, because that part is much more important than the financial results. For me, I always said that 50% is the social impact. I do it because I truly care about people around me, and not because I want to do good to the world or this, and I want to fight hunger in Africa, which obviously I'd love to do. But I always started my life, I realized that it was important for me to play a role within my space, first of all. Instead of thinking of something far away, which is obviously important. But in my case, what I wanted to try to do was to try to solve and tackle issues around me. At the beginning, it was my family, then my circle of friends, and now it's cities. So if you think that in London there is more, probably around 30% of food insecurity, food insecure families, how can you stop? How can you think about your earnings when you see that there are queues here when we give out our meals and our packages, families with kids who need to eat. And when you see a government who's doing nothing for them, how can you stop? My question to you is the opposite. How can you not do this? It's just impossible. How can you sleep at night? So for me, it's the opposite again, Katherine. I feel I'm not doing enough, and I sleep 2 hours per night because I'm devastated by the fact that I'm not yet doing enough. And you see, I always see the glass half empty, not half full. I'm just at the beginning. I know we can do so much more for the cities, for people, and we're here to do that. So we will never stop. Well, yes, we will stop, but it will not be for my decision. Someone else will decide for me to stop above me one day in the distant future. But the Mercato family will continue because I got amazing people all around me, and they want to do this. They want to do the same. They feel this mood and this strong connection with the community and the purpose of what we do.
We talk a lot, or we started to talk more about the UN Sustainable Development Goals as like a framework to help people think about how to make what they're doing more sustainable and improve things. And I know you use those as a tool. So, like, I mean, it sounds to me like whether or not that existed or not, you would still be doing this stuff. But how do frameworks like the Sustainable Development Goals sort of help, I guess, communicate what you're doing and make decisions in Mercato?
Okay, this is complicated because as much as I love the United Nations and the Sustainable Development Goals are clearly a good guideline towards a better future, I think they are proposed in the wrong way because they want people to act in certain ways about the environment. And they are, again, putting a lot of pressure on the single individual on their choices, which partially is right. But very often, 70%, 8% responsibility is governments. So I'm a little bit annoyed with the fact that it's always us, it's always the citizen. And when I read, for instance, on plastic, when I read on a tube, I think, Coca-Cola telling us, recycle your bottle. How can a government how can an advertising agency do something like that? And how can a government allow this? They make these plastic bottles and they ask us to recycle. It's Coca-Cola should stop. You understand what I mean? So from that point of view, the United Nations keeps on preaching to all of us. What I wanted to tell them, obviously, I truly believe that they're right. Don't misunderstand me. But what I'd like to transform them is to make them a little bit more intelligible and a little bit more concrete in everyday life. So that's why the environment is important, Katherine. Obviously, air, the soil. But how many people understand that a lively soil of only 2 centimeters means death for all of us? You have to have 1-2 meters of healthy, lively soil to attract the carbon dioxide and then turn it into energy for the plants, while a 2 centimeter soil will just reflect the sun rays and increase the heating of the planet, in addition to giving you a salad which is totally useless in terms of nutrients. How can you express this to an average citizen? Instead, if we touch the thing that they do every day, which is eating, if you touch food and you turn all of the sustainable development goals, first of all, into a food system which works for the 17 sustainable development goals, you indirectly affect the environment, indirectly or directly, but without telling people, don't pollute, don't drive the car and drive a bicycle. Start by eating well. You do it 3 times per day. Eat well. choose well what you eat. Stop going to any supermarket. Okay, I do not have to mention names, but basically 99% of them who sell non-food as food. And then we have 50 million of people every day with illness, dying or ill with chronic diseases connected to lifestyle. 50 million people per year. So you understand that COVID, as much as it's a terrible pandemic, is nothing compared to what the conglomerates and government have done to us in the last 70 years, 50 million every year. You understand that this is an issue which can't be treated like all the others. We cannot smile when we tell our children, okay, drink a Coca-Cola because nothing happens. Yes, it happens. It happens. And if you look carefully at what obesity means, and you connect it to social injustice, then you relate it immediately to malnutrition. So what causes obesity in a city causes also malnutrition and obviously social injustice and connection to poverty. So at the end of the day, we are talking about solving the problem of poverty, food hunger, and education within cities, which is incredibly important. So I don't smile when people tell me, oh, once in a while, there's no evil in eating that or whatever. Yes, there is. Because in the long run, not if you eat it once, but if you eat it constantly, you will get ill, obese, or with diabetes, and then you will have to be cured, and the expenses are incredible. So again, I'm saying all of this, but what I do then in practicality is to offer a space where you come and have fun. You don't think about this because you do not have to think about this. Eating well doesn't need you to be a scientist or a nutritionist. Just eat a biodiverse food which is healthy, affordable, and full of nutrients every day. That's what we are trying to do.
I like you're sort of like not needing to put pressure on the individual to make the sort of good choice. You're sort of hardwiring it into these spaces that you're and communities
exactly.
that you're creating, which is obviously amazing. So I guess like thinking about your role as Chief Executive Dreamer, love that role title. I guess when we talk about entrepreneurship with our students, we talk about resilience and bounce back ability. So I'm just wondering, has there ever been anything that's gone wrong, and what did you learn from that?
My God. You know that we say that whatever could go wrong, go wrong. So, of course, people who tell you, oh, I always did everything right, don't believe them. Just don't trust them. They're useless pricks. I've done so many things. I've tried so many things in my life with one purpose always. This is very important. My vision was there. It was not clear when I was at your age. It was not really clear what I wanted to do. I did not have a business plan in mind, but I knew that there was this cloud of a possibility of future, which I could share with people I cared about. And that became a Mercato Metropolitano. But along the path, I tried everything legal, everything ethical, always. But I tried so many times, and I made probably more mistakes than I did good right things. The important factor, Katherine, is to be able to immediately understand it and change immediately, without crying, without moaning, without feeling depressed. Change it. If it doesn't work well, it doesn't mean that it's wrong per se. Just change the way you are approaching it. Because if you feel that you are right, you are right. But sometimes the path you take that is wrong. So what I learned in my life is that there are no mountains that cannot be climbed. But sometimes you just make a hole and create a tunnel. sometimes you have to climb them. This is the elasticity and the flexibility you need. More than sitting down and creating perfect business plans, which I sometimes call the death of entrepreneurship. You should do what you think in a, let's say, the high level scheme, and then start doing it. Take the first step. One thing I'd like to tell all of you students and the kids around is that don't ever judge something as the future based on your knowledge in this instant. Because once you take the first step, all the perspectives around you change. The world around you change, you change. So you will measure the next step with different variables and with different values. So start your journey. Don't sit down to think about what you would like to do, and then maybe you will spend the weekend doing, because during the week you have to earn your money. This, I don't believe it. If you believe in something, do it and start now.
It reminds me of someone was talking to me about like career approaches and this sort of lily pad theory of, you know, rather than saying to yourself in 10 years time I want to be here, it's like you just go from one lily pad to the other and then other lily pads appear and you then think, where do you want to go next based on that. So it's I guess another way of saying
It's the same thing, Katherine. Even now, if you ask me, where do you see you in 5 years? I don't know. Tomorrow it will change again. I keep on changing, and every day I've got new objectives or just different objectives. Obviously, the vision is that one, it doesn't change, but it's the way you approach it, the way you make it bigger, smaller, or you change the color of it. It depends on the day or what happens. You need to have an open mind for that.
Amazing. And I think, like, from hearing you talk and obviously being at the site, you know, partnership working feels like absolutely fundamental to how you do things. So, like, what would your advice be to our students around, you know, how to develop their ability to work in partnership? Like, what would your advice be?
My advice would be to not think that being alone is a good thing. I thought so when I was younger. I used to be fast in the way I thought. And I know I can be faster than many people. But I realized very soon that I could be faster and reach a target faster than all the others, but I cannot go far alone. So it depends on what you want in life. If you want to have a fast objective or whatever it is, you can be also alone. It's a 2-3 years race. You can do it. If you want to build something which will last and which will go further on in life, you need to work in teams. You need to have people you trust and who are better than you in many other fields, and you need to recognize that they are better than you. And you chose them because they are better than you. You don't feel threatened by their skills because you have the vision. You know how to orchestrate this amazing circus, but you need people who are incredibly efficient in their own fields. And that's what I would say. Surround yourself by smart people. It doesn't mean that they have to be smarter than you. There's no comparison. They are better in certain fields, and you're better in seeing the future, for instance. It's not a challenge. It's not a competition among ourselves. It's a competition towards the world. We want to go further on and change the way people eat, buy, and perceive food in all major cities in the world. This is our objective.
So obviously, one of the things that we share as Kings and that you do as well is incubating startup businesses, and obviously you do that in the food space, and we do that broadly with student, staff, and alumni. Sure, many of the other universities who are taking part in Venture Call have similar accelerators. What do you think are the key sort of ingredients? I hope you like my pun there. To successfully incubate startups, do you think?
But again, as you know, we are not a, let's say, classical incubator. Obviously, we incubate in our own way,
Yeah.
which means we challenge people to send us their applications about their dreams, and we call it the Dream Campaign with a double M. And people send us applications of any kind. They want to open their own particular travel shop or bookstores, or they want to open an art exhibition with the local people or local arts, or they want to open a restaurant. Everything is not only about food; it's about creativity and being entrepreneurial and artisanship, obviously. So we asked them to send us their proposal. Then we studied, and what we find interesting, we give them our support in terms of education, training, induction, help, advice for a few months, and we give them the space to try. If it's their food, it's easier because we have our own shack, so we always leave a space, two spaces actually, for crazy ideas of young entrepreneurs. They can start and do it for 1 month, for instance, for free. Then we have a space only for the female food founders, which is a competition among for women who wants to start their own businesses. As you know, in the food system, women are incredibly good, but to become an entrepreneur is a little bit more difficult for them. So we give a space for them to do it and try. And then we have one for refugees. And then we, from King's College, for instance, we have these ideas of three crazy guys with beer, Bavarian beer, who knocked at our door saying we want to make the best possible beer in the world for the first time out of Bavaria here in London. And my reply was, yes, let's do it. And we did it. And they are super successful. And we are super successful because of them. And they are totally compatible with our values. So we love them, obviously. So there are so many ways to incubate someone. And sometimes you just incubate by giving a little bit of encouragement and a space to be and a little bit of dignity to people. That's already incubating ideas.
Just for all those watching, Andrea is referring to German Craft, who are one of the first ventures who are on our King's 20 Accelerator program. Highly recommend visiting. So I guess we've started, and I know lots of other universities are having more and more conversations in the context of like incubating startups around baking in sort of sustainability from the beginning, much like you've done with Mercato. And I guess sometimes maybe there feels like a bit of a tension with getting the startup up and running, moving towards generating revenue and those sorts of things, and making time to think about the sustainability elements. And my instinct is that you don't see them as two different things. But what would you say to an entrepreneur who's maybe struggling with reconciling those things?
But you just have to don't think about sustainability. Sustainability is like the air you breathe. Finished. It has to be part of everything you do in your life. If you think about sustainability to be sustainable, you're already wrong. You're already on the wrong path. It's like breathing the air you have around you. Without it, we cannot survive on this planet. It's not something we could do or not do. And it makes me angry when I see big corporations saying we are green, we take pride of doing, I don't know, 0.01% of green activities, and then for the 99.9, they ruin the world. No, you have to be 100% sustainable. And to be sustainable, because it's such a used term now, and it's almost ridiculous now, it means that you have to be true to yourself, true to your potential customers, citizens, and friends, and you have to be aware of the fact that if you don't create an environment around you which is safe and secure in every possible aspect, your business is useless. Your role in society is useless. A company is something, and you know that the word company comes from compagno, which means the person with whom you share bread. So understand this. It became, in the last 70 years, a place where the shareholders would become rich like never before. This is blasphemy. Don't be a shareholder, be a stakeholder. You are part of the system. So don't build a business plan trying to fake sustainability to attract customers. Be sustainable, because authenticity is what people feel. We have 4 million people here without advertising because we don't need to advertise. People come and feel it. Feel that even if we are far away from what I want, we are still miles away from perfection, and we will maybe never reach it. We are fighting for it. We believe in it. It doesn't pay off to be perfect, because nobody can be. Everything changes. But is your mission, your drive towards that objective that is important, people feel. So be true to yourself and be authentic. If you're faking it, don't do it. You're not an entrepreneur.
So I guess we couldn't do this interview without talking about COVID and what that has meant for Mercato, and how you've adapted. Because obviously, you know, you create a home for lots of other food startups. You have so many programs in the community, and by people not being able to literally come to be part of that, I'm curious about what you've learned during this time, and yeah, what changes you've had to make.
I learned a lot of things. Some of them I cannot publicly talk about them because I would be forbidden to enter UK again. But let's say that one thing is for sure: COVID didn't change a thing in terms of a complete change. COVID exacerbated something which started after 2008. And it's also connected to terrible lifestyle and food, because if you look at the statistics, unfortunately, the biggest number of deaths were among the elder, the ill, and the obese people. So, which is terrible, obviously, and but that should make us think even more that we need to create a real strong change and not see still today and allow advertisements from these big conglomerates which are still killing tons of kids. So what we started in 2015 was right. That's what I think. So COVID didn't change a thing to me. Actually, it made me think that we were even more right. And what we are doing now is we realize that whenever we open, we have a queue of 200-300 meters immediately, because the community love us and they know that we care about them. We never stopped our social activity. So we kept on, instead of having the kids here during the summer school retreat, because they couldn't come, we used to do it online and sending food to them. So we never stopped it. You just change the way you deliver. I don't like to deliver things because I believe that Mercato is also a moment of communication, of being together. And the delivery system is not good for me because, first of all, you don't know where this food has been prepared. So the name already, dark kitchen, gives you, it's Freudian, I think, dark kitchen. There, you already know it's a terrible space where they cook something and then they put a brand on it, and someone who's underpaid and under the rain and the snow has to deliver something to you, and then you eat alone in front of a TV very often. So it's the death of everything we believe in, obviously. I do believe that you need to have some, obviously, delivery system, because there are people who are elder people are ill, or occasionally it's fine. But still, we are social animals. We need to be together. So I truly believe that what we changed a little bit in Mercato is that instead of only creating big markets of 3, 4, 5,000 square meter, I needed to reach out for smaller communities. So we came up with a new concept called MMY, which is my MM, a neighborhood smaller concept, which we will open in Canary Wharf, the first one, of 500-600 square meter, with the same concept, and we will spread out to engage directly with the community. Instead of delivering food from, again, a dark kitchen, we want to engage with people. We want to have people there, to employ people, pay them the living London wage, and create the connection between the citizens and the people who produce or make your own food. So this is what it was already in our plans, but we accelerated it. Obviously, we also have created, and it will be released in the next 2 months, a beautiful app through which you can get in touch with us in a better way. Or if you are ill, you can have your food delivered and you can engage with us. So the digital part obviously is important as is a tool. It cannot substitute what we are doing. But if you have the necessity, you will be delivered our own food that you can trust. Any other chain, any other Uber Eats or Deliveroo will send you whatever, from a terrible burger to whatever. And basically they are not exactly what we would like. It's not the kind of society we want to build.
Yeah.
So they are basically, from my point of view, drug dealers, and we are not. We want to be dealers of health, passion, and fun. That's it.
So, I mean, obviously, there's been recent announcements from the government. There's some glimmers of hope of, being able to do more things, hopefully this year. So I'm curious to hear a bit more about the new sites you've got coming up, and what the process is to select the new sites and create those new sites. If you're allowed to say, I don't know whether.
Of course. The good thing of being an entrepreneur is that you basically do what you want. That's a good part of it. As I was telling you, we've been offered in the last 12 months, I don't know how many locations. We don't look for actively for any location. We have no time to do it. We are almost, our emails are, I don't know how many requests of opening in various cities in the world we receive every day. And we analyze them because what we want is to create a relation with the investor or the real estate or the owner of the building or the government of the city. They have to invest in the market because whatever we build, it has to be their own markets, not our markets. We build it with them. They have to follow our rules, our manifesto and everything. We will be actively managing it, but it has to come from them. Again, bottom up. It's not us opening, it's them asking us to open with them. So we have 4 openings as we speak in London. We are building 4 new ones. 4 new have been offered to us in the last 3 weeks. And then we have other cities in UK, but in this stage, we want to dedicate our effort towards major cities all around the world. So we are actively now building Berlin, which is another 5,000 square meter place in amazing. I mean, the location is just amazing. I don't like the buildings. I don't like the way it is done because it's too modern and it's a little bit too much of a shopping mall. But in reality, what we will create will be in contrast to all of that, but in the perfect place, which is exactly where the wall was built in Potsdamer Plaza. And because I hate walls and I love bridges, I love to be there. So that's another big message. And we have engaged in discussion with another 6 major capitals in Europe, and 7 cities in USA, Japan, and in the Middle East in this moment. But again, based on the fact that people ask us to open, and they have to sign our manifesto if they want to engage with us. So you see, it's a little bit different model.
I mean, again, I'm sure many, if there's any people with startups who are watching this, they could only dream, I imagine, of like people coming to them in such an amazing, like, proactive way. So,
You have to be true to yourself and authentic. You see, it's only that.
I feel like your story is very much, you know, the build it and build it well, and they will come.
Do what you really believe in, and people will come. If you push for it, you already won.
Amazing. Well, my final question was going to be to ask you where you're going to be in 5 years' time, but you sort of already said you don't think in that way. But I guess what sort of next for Mercato beyond the expansion?
So the most important thing is we want to create a movement. So we want to be, not as as a movement, we want to be in each capital and in each major city in the world. And then from there, start spreading all around and change the whole idea of food and food system. Ideally, I'd like to see all these terrible supermarket disappear or change completely. Ask for forgiveness to citizens and then change completely, not just 1%. So this is my real dream, a movement like this. And it doesn't have to be a Mercato Metropolitano. You can be another concept, but then become part of the movement in any case and spread and advocate whatever you do, food, electricity, waste, energy, whatever, music, be part of the movement because we need to change the world, but in a fun way. Don't be angry. Don't be preachy. It has to be fun. Attract people. Don't push them.
I love that. Thank you so much for putting up with me asking all these questions.
Oh, that's fine.
I strongly urge anyone watching this, when you can and when it's safe to do so, to go and visit Mercato and get the experience that we've been chatting through together today. Thank you so much for allowing us to return, albeit digitally, to Mercato. And
hopefully physically soon, Katherine. Come,
soon.
your colleagues, your friends. Let me know when you come.
Oh, absolutely. It's been a real honor, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Katherine. Have a good day. Ciao.
Bye.